Hello, dear ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the international online discussion number 9 in this series of discussions, Hydrogen Economy Development in Ukraine. Today, we are going to talk about hydrogen economy development from idea to projects implementation. And the key issues to be discussed are defined as follows: strategic vision, peculiarities of the hydrogen project's development and implementation, key components of hydrogen projects, difficulties during the implementation stage, ways of financing, and equipment market for hydrogen projects. This series of discussions is organized by the Ukraine's State Agency on Energy Efficiency and Energy Saving and the Energy Club. As most of our participants are pressed on time and will have to leave after 1 p.m. Kiev time, I ask you to be concise and precise. And the person who can demonstrate how this is to be done is, of course, Valery Bezos, head of the State Agency on Energy Efficiency and Energy Saving. The floor is yours.
Hello, thank you, Andrew, and thank all the colleagues who have this possibility to join our discussions. Of course, many thanks to Energy Club for conducting such a fruitful partnership. This series of meetings is to decompose the general idea of evolving hydrogen, the new brave hydrogen economy, to a more palpable, I would say, matters. And the best way to do so is to discuss the exact project ideas and project and possible real projects which we can see not only in, let's say, in the International Energy Agency database, but in the real perspectives from the real actors. So many thanks to all of you who can present your projects and present your vision on how to proceed with such projects. I have to mention that the Ministry of Energy of Ukraine with the agency has developed the national hydrogen strategy, actually a draft of the strategy. So now we have an opportunity to follow along this draft and to try to see how we can synchronize the general vision of the national strategy and the exact projects, ideas from the side of businesses. So it's great to have this opportunity to see not only business perspectives, but see the place for Ukraine, for the Ukrainian economy in the pan-European process of evolving the new economy. And it's quite challenging to have the exact understanding on what we have to do on the level of policy making, on the level of business strategies, on the level of possible international negotiations on how to see the place of Ukraine in this new brave hydrogen economy. So thank you very much and welcome to discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Bezos, for laying such a foundation for our further discussion. And the next person to speak is, of course, a very important participant, Evgeny Rosikov. He is secretary of the Working Group for Development of Hydrogen Energy Strategy of Ukraine at the Ministry of Energy. Mr. Rosikov.
Ladies and gentlemen, nice to see you. As mentioned before, There is a working group, interagency working group on the base of Ministry of Energy, and we also like very helpful for support of state agency on energy efficiency and energy saving. And Ukraine seeks to create a full cycle of hydrogen economy, which includes the production, transportation, storage, and consumption of hydrogen. And also interagency group with key institutions, policymakers, and stakeholders prepared a draft of hydrogen strategy, which seems to be signed by Prime Minister in next few months. And we hope so. And we see that after end of martial law, we will have 6 months to develop action plan, which will conclude all pilot projects for developing hydrogen strategy in Ukraine. And we see that there is a strategic need to use the electrolysis of clean and low emission hydrogen to support the competitiveness of Ukrainian products on the European and world markets, reduce dependence on gas imports, and improve the export-import balance, energy, food security, and stability of the country systems. Also, like, is to talk about strategy pilot projects along the value chain. We can divide them on 6 sectors. It's research, development, and technology, production, transport, storage, end use, governance, and regulations. And if to talk about research and development technologies, we see opportunities, great opportunities for Ukrainian institutes on materials, welding, electrolyzers, turbines, on turbines which works on hydrogen, methanol, ammonia. There is some technologies of mixing ammonia with coal, and we also like know some institutes goes on development of chemical carriers of hydrogen. As to speak about production, we see opportunity for clean hydrogen and low emission hydrogen, as I mentioned before, and derivatives like ammonia and methanol. In transportation sector, we need to have pilot projects on gas transportation system capability assessment, waterborne pilots, participation in the new project, transportation of hydrogen by heavy trucks. Also in storage, we see opportunities for depleted gas field and for salt caverns. And especially there is interesting field is end use. It's divided like on industry, energy, mobility, and buildings. We see to project some hydrogen clusters, like pilots on rail, on heavy goods vehicle, on buses, and like on CCU. It's like a CO2 capture usage to methanol, and also like we need to implement maybe some like best practices of like government and regulation stimulation of clean energies, like maybe tax-free for hydrogen technologies at the first stage, and some laws for CO2 reusage. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rosikov. And we have today an impressive international representation, experts from Finland, Denmark, Germany, the United Kingdom. And I invite to speak first Eva Ravn Nielsen. She is a chief advisor at Rambo, Denmark, and she's going to speak about green hydrogen from ideas to implementation.
Thank you very much for introduction and for inviting me for this session. I'm a chief advisor working in Rambo, which is a global engineering consultancy company. We do all kinds of engineering consultancy, but I am focused on the energy and specifically on the hydrogen and power to X. I'm happy to see that Ukraine have this focus also on energy carriers for the future. There is a few requirements to future solutions within energy. It must be sustainable. It must be affordable so that all users can pay their energy bills, and it must be secure so that we can rely on having the energy available when we need it. Hydrogen can live up to the sustainability for sure, because green hydrogen is a low carbon or a no carbon net zero energy carrier. Secure, we can usually ensure that as we can have very much distributed hydrogen production. Affordable is still very much a challenge, but it will come in the years, and we have no alternatives than to phase out fossil fuels in order to not harm the climate and ourselves too much. So the green hydrogen comes from renewable power, which is used in electrolysis for splitting water into hydrogen and oxygen. This hydrogen can be either used directly or it can be synthesized further to these chemical carriers or electrofuels, as I like to call it. Furthermore, we need water, for water is the source where the hydrogen comes from. And then you need a distribution system, an off-take system when you have your hydrogen. Hydrogen and the electrofuels can be used for many applications, as you also briefly touched upon, heavy transport, ammonia, both for shipping and for fertilizers for the agriculture. And a lot of chemical industry we need as feedstock for plastic and other industrial purposes where we need high amounts of energy that cannot be supplied just by electricity. From authorities and from a governmental point of view, I see that you can both push and pull this development. You can push by putting up mandates and regulations saying that these and these services and application has a maximum CO2 emission, so that road transport, aviation, agriculture have a maximum of CO2 emissions, and that might make them have to go to these green fuels. The other way, also a mandate of blending in hydrogen in our green fuels in the applications, perhaps in the gas network or in the fuels for transport. The other way, instead of pushing, is pulling, making subsidies, both for the development, but also for production. So it will be more affordable also for companies to invest in, both on the production side and not least challenging on the off-take side. Because there is no market yet for these green fuels, it's very much a chicken and egg dilemma or challenge. I cannot change my production to this before I have supply secured, but who should start? Therefore, we must enter partnerships, close partnerships, and you should also partner up with knowledge companies or universities, whoever knows about how to realize this. Permitting, safety, technology selection are main challenges at the moment, where it's the first time both for project developers, investors, and for authorities that have to approve these new projects. But yeah, working together and making sure that it's the most efficient technologies selected for reducing CO2 emissions. Therefore, you can also make a requirement on exactly the CO2 emissions, and not only that it has to be electrofuels. So for passenger cars and for heating, I say electricity is a more direct electrification is a more sustainable and easy way to implement when you have the green power available. So thank you, and I look forward to questions and answers later.
Thank you very much. And now the mic goes to another participant from farther Europe than Ukraine. It's Markus Kaufmann. He's the principal of Roland Berger GmbH from Germany, obviously, and he's going to talk about hydrogen valleys.
Yes, thank you. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. I think this ties very nicely into Eva's previous speech, because I want to precisely talk about how partnerships along the hydrogen value chain and concrete projects can actually make projects happen and get them off the ground. We at Roland Berger, we are a global strategy consultancy that has worked in hydrogen for over 10 years already, and we have closely advised, among others, the European Commission and the Clean Hydrogen Partnership on various topics of sector development. One of this is hydrogen valleys. We are currently implementing a global hydrogen valley platform that looks to feature hydrogen valley projects from all around the world, enable exchange and dialogue among project developers, the industry, policymakers to advance those projects. Now, what is a hydrogen valley? By a hydrogen valley, we mean a portfolio of multiple projects in a given region that cover the entire hydrogen value chain that is larger in scale. We typically say it's a significantly double-digit megawatt and double-digit multi-million euro investment that is actually supplying more than one end use of hydrogen. So different types of mobility applications, buses, trucks, etc., but also industrial uses, ammonia in the fertilizer industry, refining green steel. So essentially a pool of off-takers that uses the same source of zero or low carbon hydrogen production, therefore enables the hydrogen production to reach scale so that costs can come down, and also potentially shares infrastructure, whether that's pipelines, whether that's storage or hydrogen refueling station, and all of that happening in a defined geographical area. That's why it's called a hydrogen valley, so to say. And this concept has been around now for more than 5 years in Europe. We have several hydrogen valleys in Europe already operational, and we see it as a very powerful and well-functioning concept to get the market off the ground. It solves the chicken and egg problem, essentially, that Eva was mentioning as well, because you ensure in the hydrogen valley that the actors along the value chain move together, implement projects together, and therefore avoid stranded assets. This concept is also getting lots of public funding from national governments, not just in Europe, but now all around the world, and also at the European level from funding of the European Commission. For example, under the Repower EU package from the Commission, hydrogen valleys are a dedicated pillar of action which will receive several hundred millions of euros in additional funding. We can point to valleys that are already working. Most of them today still focused on hydrogen mobility, but we see an increasing shift to industrial decarbonization and centering a hydrogen valley around industrial off-takers. And maybe to conclude my short initial statement, what are the key success factors that you need in order to develop a hydrogen valley? As I said, you have to start with a pool of off-takers. I always say every hydrogen project is just a PowerPoint presentation until you have an off-taker that is willing to commit to a longer-term hydrogen offtake. This can come, as I said, from multiple sources, bringing them together and then reach a sufficient scale, for instance, for an electrolyzer to build a central source of hydrogen supply that then goes to these off-takers. For that, you of course need access to low-cost renewable electricity. We all know that the Ukraine here, for example, has great potential, fundamentally speaking. And you basically have to put this together in a specific region where supply and demand are close by. And that's the ingredients you need to build a successful hydrogen valleys. Then, of course, coordination among partners is important. Strong political support, not just at the government level, at the national level, but also at the regional and local level. And last but not least, of course, public funding will still be a critical element, at least in over the next 3 to 5 years. I will conclude with that, and like Eva, looking forward to Q&A later in the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kaufman, in particular for emphasizing the local aspect of the support that is a hydrogen valley may need. The next person to speak is Jürgen Petersen. He's from Sustainability Services. He is a senior manager at PricewaterhouseCoopers. Go ahead, Mr. Petersen.
Good morning, everybody. Yes, well, thanks. I mean, I'd like to talk a little bit about sort of the role of hydrogen for Ukraine in the future. And I think, I mean, I only got the last bit of Eva's presentation. It builds a bit on what Marcus said. I think there are basically 3 pillars on how hydrogen can contribute to the Ukraine economy in the future. I think it's firstly, it could be an export vector, right? Energy export vector, using local renewable resources, and renewable resources are good, better than, for example, compared to Central Europe, to produce hydrogen and its derivatives. So hydrogen, ammonia, methanol, etc. So exporting this is, I think, is one option. Then the second option I see is really the local decarbonization. So where you say, well, we start decarbonizing local steel production, local fertilizer production, and possibly some transport options. Even though I'm with Eva, I think electrification, direct electrification, is going to be most relevant for the passenger cars. Even though there might be some opportunities, think about shipping fuels, aviation fuels. So there's a role. And then the third one, and I think that's a very interesting one, is really taking a larger share of the product value chain. So basically saying, using hydrogen or its derivatives locally to produce, for example, this green steel, and then selling not the hydrogen, but selling green steel overseas. So selling a product, that means you get a bigger part of the value chain. And that might not be only be sort of the raw steel, it might also be a finished product, because products you are exporting already to the European market will have sort of a demand for a green premium. So you might say, well, we start exporting this green steel, or we could think exporting green fertilizer, or for example, food. I mean, food that is produced with local fertilizer, green fertilizer, and sort of a renewable energy perspective. This sort of the last pillar would provide Ukraine the biggest part of the value chain, because it's not only sitting at the energy part, it really is moving into the product production and then export part of the sort of a product value chain. How to do that? Yes, as Marco said, you would need something like these hydrogen valleys setting up in different parts of the Ukraine. You would need to combine these local production. You would have to look at how is infrastructure distributed at the moment. Can we use existing infrastructure? And then identify the partners. Partners meaning local production partners, but also the off-takers in Central Europe and other parts of the world. particularly looking at the ones that have, let's say, these net zero commitments or science-based target commitments. Because once they've committed to these goals, then they have a budget and an agenda on how to meet these goals. So, and that means if they are sort of producing a car, this car has to be green by a certain point in time. And that means they need to start procuring the different parts of this particular product to meet a certain target. So I think this, with these three pillars, basically export of energy, local consumption, decarbonize, and then using the renewable hydrogen to sort of produce export products, grabbing a bigger part of the value chain. I think these are the sort of three main aspects I would see for hydrogen in Ukraine's energy future.
Thank you very, very much. And I pass the mic to Benedict Lachmann, Technical Director of H2 Green Power and Logistics GmbH from Germany.
Thank you very much for the possibility to summarize our activities in the field of hydrogen production and logistics. Since I have only 5 minutes, I've prepared some slides in order to let you understand what we are doing in the whole. And I will try to share my screen right now, if it's possible. I think so. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Just wait. You should see.
Yeah, we see it. We see it.
The presentation. Okay, great.
Yeah.
I work for the H2 Green Power and Logistics company. We are a company which business case consists of production and logistics of green hydrogen. We are also busy in the fields of green electricity and heat. The European Union regulatory system of the greenhouse gas certificates is also part of our case and is important for ramping up the whole system of green energy in Europe. We have several customers with focus on logistics in food industry, as well as in white and brown goods, for example, dishwashers, TV, and computers. Our operational hub is in Magdeburg in Saxonia-Anhalt. There we are the owner of the industrial area Mittelelbe with about 50 hectares of space. Different companies are located there, working in branches like logistics, food, scrap recycling, and more. The head offices of the company are located in Münster in the west of Germany. This is the bird's view of our industry area Mittelelbe in Magdeburg. It is located directly beside the Autobahn A2, and we have several customers directly in the area, as well as potential other customers around. On the area, we operate a thermal power plant with biomass. In addition, we are currently setting up a windmill with 3.2 megawatt of rated power. In the immediate neighborhood, we have also big gravel lakes where we currently plan to install floating photovoltaic systems. And last but not least, we have big roof surfaces on the halls which are completely covered with photovoltaics. In 2024, we will start green hydrogen production out of our new 2.5 megawatt electrolyzers. Here you see some pictures from the mentioned sources for green energy. The floating photovoltaic system on the gravel lake you see on the left above. And the Enercon E70, for example, is planned for our site in Magdeburg. And in addition, we are working on a wind farm with 4 machines of the Enercon type E82 close to Hanover. In 2018, we opened the very first hydrogen filling station based on 700 bar together with Total Energies and H2 Mobility in Eastern Germany. The picture left shows the opening ceremony together with the Prime Minister of Saxonia-Anhalt, Dr. Rainer Haseloff. In 2020, the first e-charger systems have been put into operation on the right side. Currently, 4 more filling stations for hydrogen are in planning based on 350 bar. They are located in Saxonia-Anhalt as well as in Lower Saxony and in North Rhine-Westphalia on the west of Germany. All hydrogen stations are close to the German gas pipeline system and will be connected to it in the future in order to avoid transporting hydrogen by trucks. To fulfill our logistics approach, we consider different suppliers of trucks with fuel cell system. The very first truck with a fuel cell from Hyundai was handed over in September this year, and 4 more trucks will come until April next year. We consider 13 more trucks of this kind in the next year and in 2024. The customers shown will either operate these trucks in a pay-per-use model, or they will operate by themselves, buying the green hydrogen from us. Here you see the gas grid development plan from 2020 to 2030 in Germany. On the left side, you see the current gas grid system in Germany. On the right hand, the so-called backbone. The backbone grid is considered to be the hydrogen pipeline grid starting within the next few years and will be completed step by step between 2030 and 2050. For this, we closely work together with different grid gas companies as OGE, ThyssenGas, Gascade, Novega, and others. The gas grid is essential for the development and deployment of the green hydrogen in Germany and the whole Europe. As you all know, energy in Germany is currently expensive. This is why we visited Chile in April this year in order to explore business cases to produce green hydrogen, respectively green ammonia, to bring it to Europe. We have seen big opportunities in the north with photovoltaics, as well as in the south with wind. Currently, these cases are a serious alternative to in-house production, despite the long way of transport. Nevertheless, we believe that it is better for the future to find partners closer to us, for example, Scotland or even the Ukraine. The target is to find reliable partners and to diversify locations in order to avoid dependencies from 1 or 2 suppliers. In case of import of green ammonia from Chile or Scotland or other countries, the harbors of Wilhelmshaven and Rotterdam are a good choice for landing because they are connected to the European gas grid system. This is why we also have an office in Wilhelmshaven, for example. And here you can see an overview about the responsible contact persons in our company. On the left side, you see Dr. Hellenthal. He is the founder and the CEO of our company and also the owner of the industrial area Mittelelbe in Magdeburg. Myself, I am responsible as the CTO in this company. Mr. Uhlhorn, my colleague, is for operational questions responsible, and Mr. Becker, head of the business development, and Mr. Niels Burkhardt, he is the head of the industrial area in Magdeburg. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, and I really wonder about your questions.
Thank you very much for this impressive presentation. And now another participant from Germany. This is Philipp Speiser. He is director of the Energy Transition Air Liquide. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you for the opportunity for being here and being able to present a little bit some of the challenges that we are facing when we are actually developing projects. I will not bombard you with slides and try to be very brief, but just to give an idea what Air Liquide is doing and the center of our activities. We have been in the hydrogen realm for more than 60 years. I think we initially started with the space exploration with more than 1,000 people around the world working in hydrogen-related activities. It's a bit more than 2.2 billion euros of annual sales are achieved with hydrogen. As you can see, our production is already quite sizable. This being said, the majority of that is based on fossil sources, mainly natural gas. We are also a supplier of hydrogen refueling stations. I would make a bet that the station you just saw in the presentation of Mr. Lachmann was supplied by Air Liquide, most likely. And we operate more than 2,000 kilometers of pipelines for hydrogen across the world. I wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of where we see the global activities in terms of hydrogen specifically around renewable hydrogen. You see here a map of the world where it's very easy to spot that Europe is one of the most busiest places in terms of development. The same can be said for Asia, with a center in China. And then you see the US, and very particularly Australia. And when you break that down, and this is going along the line what some of the colleagues said before, you have a split between projects that are dedicated to produce hydrogen in a gigawatt scale, very often not located close to the consumers. Then you have a number of industry and transport related projects for the usage. I will not repeat it, but I think that especially from our point of view, existing hydrogen consumption as well as steel and heavy duty mobility are the most promising sectors to be switching to renewable hydrogen in the coming years. But then you also see a number of infrastructure and integrated hydrogen projects. This would be very close to the hydrogen valley idea that was presented from the colleague from Roland Berger. Now, what is Air Liquide doing concretely? So we have a number of activities in Europe where we build electrolyzers. We're currently building anything between 20 and 200 megawatts per site. So how did we go about when we plan these projects? And again, echoing a lot of what was said before, it's very important to have the customers and future users. So selecting the right sectors and ideally with an agglomeration of different users that can benefit from a shared infrastructure. We don't see so many problems at the moment on, let's say, the industry related variables. Both the technology is probably not the biggest issue, as well as financing. Where we do actually see issues or hurdles that need to be overcome, and maybe this is a recommendation. The biggest problem is access to renewables at the moment, with the turmoils on the European electricity markets and the scarcity of energy. It's actually quite difficult to procure the right level, and that in turn is an opportunity for regions or countries that do have access, at least in theory, to a lot of renewable or low carbon electricity. The second piece is more I would say, early adopter issue, that we are building the project in a time where there's still uncertainty around regulation. The European Union is still debating around compliance to the delegated act and the details of it. Here, not surprisingly, the United States, that basically is operating with tax relief schemes, is much more straightforward and easier. And the third biggest issue at the moment is that while there is a significant funding gap still today between fossil and renewable hydrogen, we understand there is a need and an incentive for states to provide funding, but the bureaucratic processes to achieve and receive the funding are very cumbersome and sometimes take longer than the actual project development phase. So again, we believe from the industry, we can scale up quite quickly. And at the moment, we're waiting for green light on different funding schemes and regulatory issues. Again, thank you for giving me the chance to present, and looking forward to your questions in the Q&A later on.
Thank you very much. And after this series of brilliant interventions from Germany, we go to Finland, and Herko Pies, he's a founder and chief executive officer of the Fox Solutions, no, P2X Solutions.
Yeah, thank you. P2X Solutions is really our company there, and as the name tells there, we are the forerunner in the development of the green hydrogen production and its derivatives, the e-fuels in Finland. Before going the activities, so to say, which we are doing in the company, I would like to take a larger picture than the European scale. And as was mentioned by the previous speaker, then in Finland we have the great opportunity to enlarge the wind power capacity very largely there. We have lots of space in our country there, and actually there are lots of investment portfolio already in the pipeline. Up to 180 gigawatts is the project portfolio at the moment there, and our TSO in the electric side is expecting that we will have 30 gigawatts of wind power production in our country by 2030 already. And at the moment, it's only 4 gigawatts there. This will mean there that there will be an excess of wind power there, and this is of course a crucial issue then for the green hydrogen production, because the green electricity or the renewables are the source of the power which is needed there. And then this is what I want to highlight there. With this capacity, with lots of new wind power, with lots of pure water, and we have also very much of the bio-based CO2 available from our fabrics and power plants there in Finland. There we are assuming that Finland could contribute up to 10% of the European green hydrogen production by 2030, then of these 10 million tons, which is the EU target there. And I also echo there that the regulation is one of the crucial issues there, and there's a kind of tendency now in the EU that over-regulation very carefully define there what color the hydrogen is and what is the additionality and etc. These kind of regulation points, and when comparing then the regulation to the other parts of the continent, taking it there, US, India, Australia, so forth there. This is an issue which is a very, very sensitive then regarding the competitiveness of the EU in the global hydrogen market. So I would recommend there for Ukraine to also consider very carefully then what kind of regulation you are putting up there. It is important there that you enable the market to be established there, because this enabling the market is something which is very crucial, because if the regulation is too strict, then there's a danger that it will kill the emerging market. Another issue which has not yet been mentioned here is the utilization of the side streams which are coming in the electrolyzer process there. As you might know, there's lots of heat, lots of oxygen which are coming out of the process then when you are producing the green hydrogen, and especially utilizing the heat is an issue which we are focusing very much in our projects. We are having now our first 20 megawatt project investment decision done. It's under construction in Harjavalta in Finland there. And there the utilization of the heat is an important issue. Our next project, 30 megawatt project in the city of Joensuu. We are together with the local energy company there, where our excess heat will go to the city district heating network there. Up to 15% of the heat of the city is needing is coming from our process. They are having also a power plant over there, which we will utilize there, that the CO2 that they are now releasing to the sky, we are capturing it and taking the process so we can manufacture then synthetic methane over there. So these kind of synergies are one of the issues which are very, very crucial when we are considering how to go forward and implement these projects. Of course, this state financing and funding subsidies in the beginning of the market is a crucial issue. We have received from our, so to say, government initial subsidies for our first unit in Harjavalta. We are also listed in this IPK project list by the Commission, then the important project, the Common European targets then. And those are extremely crucial together with these hydrogen values, that the value chains are created then over the borders and so forth there. So with these points then, so to say, we have been following and implementing. We are very well ahead in Finland with our project there. Like I said, first one on the construction, second on the planning, and our target is to create 1,000 megawatts by our company then, and actually the Finnish target is 6 to 7 gigawatts by 2030 there, so that the hydrogen economy will boost there, and we can create a sustainable future for our globe. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And the word goes to Steve Berry, the sales manager at Plug Power, United Kingdom.
Hi there. Thank you to the Energy Club and the wider group of people here to give me the opportunity to talk to you today. So yeah, I work for Plug Power. Plug Power is one of the only companies out there globally that touch all different parts of the hydrogen ecosystem. We produce, liquefy, store, transport, dispense, and utilize hydrogen in many fuel cell applications. I've got a short presentation here to give you a quick brief overview of our electrolyzer offerings. And I'll just share my screen now. Can you see my screen?
It says Steve Berry has started screen sharing.
It might take a while to pop up.
Yeah, no pictures so far.
No problem. If you can share it, that would be great. So yeah, if you can move on to the next slide, that'd be great. So the most important thing about the electrolyzer is the stack, and I'll just deep dive a little bit further into the stack. So basically, Plug Power acquired a company called Gina 2 years ago, and that is the heart of our electrolyzer. We have a facility in the States, in New York. It's a 1 gigawatt facility, able to upscale to 2.5 gigawatt, manufacture quite rapidly. It's fully automated, based in Rochester, New York. As you can see, we produce very high purity of hydrogen at 40 bars. We've got really good stack performance, and we're used in a variety of different applications in really austere conditions, from subsea in submarines to produce oxygen, to outer space in the International Space Station. As you can see, we've grown the stack portfolio up to 1 megawatt, and that is the building block for our electrolyzers. Okay, move on to the next slide, please. So this slide shows you our product offering. We have a 300-strong engineering and project management team based in the Netherlands, and their sole focus is to ensure that we've got the best electrolyzer offering on the marketplace, and we've standardized on 3 offerings. Okay, there's so many advantages of standardization. I'm not going to deep dive too much into that today. So the 3 offerings we got is the 1 megawatt, 5 megawatt, and 10 megawatt arrays. Now, the 1 and 5 megawatts are standard plug and play solutions. We've made it as simple as possible to integrate these systems into applications. Okay, all you have to do is provide them with electricity, provide them with potable water, and we will produce you green hydrogen. Okay, the 1 megawatt electrolyzer produces approximately 425 kilograms of hydrogen a day, and it's really suited for hydrogen refueling requirements, as well as small hydrogen production facilities. Okay, our 5 megawatt electrolyzer again is the same. It's plug and play. Literally, give us electricity and water, and we'll give you hydrogen and oxygen. Okay, that is suited for small industrial type applications or building blocks to say 10, 20, 30, 40 megawatt opportunities. The advantage of that is you've got redundancy, you've got repeatability. You can redeploy them if you wish at a later date. You know, really good, and it's hot to trot systems that we're producing at the moment. We currently have a backlog of about 50 orders to execute right now. And the last but not least is our 10 megawatt array. Now, the 10 megawatt array is a building block for your large volume hydrogen manufacturing facilities. Okay, we've spent a lot of time, money, and effort in trying to standardize, say, a 100 megawatt facility or a 200 megawatt facility, and it's impossible to do that. There's too many variables: level of redundancy, etc., etc. It's you cannot standardize. It's very difficult to standardize on large volume hydrogen production. But what we do is provide you the building blocks to do that. We can't execute massive projects on our own. We you know, for the 100 megawatt type opportunities, we would need to partner up with an EPC, but we would provide them the building blocks and the information to be able to execute such a program. I'll give you an example. H2 Energy Europe in Denmark is a 1 gigawatt facility. It's 100 10 megawatt arrays in that offering. If you look at the construction requirements, the size of footprint, etc., it's impossible to execute something like that on your own. So we have to partner up with people who know all the different parts of the market. Okay. Last slide, please, if that's okay. Just a brief overview. So, like I said, it's PEM technology, really good purity, and we produce it at 40 bar. 40 bar is really, really, really important. The majority of the applications need a level of compression at the end of the day. And if we're delivering this at 40 bar straight out the electrolyzer, it removes the requirement for that first stage of compression, which typically removes half the CapEx requirements for compression, half the footprint, and with that, it also reduces the OpEx requirement for your compression. Okay, we got really high performance, really strong availability. We've got a really robust aftermarket offering that supports that. We've got a 10-to-1 turn-down ratio, so you can fine-tune the output requirements from your electrolyzer. 80,000 hours or 10-year stack life expectancy. And we've also got a program in place where you're able to exchange them stacks when we come to the end of life. Okay, so we can take the old ones in, recycle them, and provide you new ones. So the lifespan of these products are pretty much endless. Okay, we got really fast start capabilities. We can start in less than 5 minutes from cold. That's the advantage of PEM. From hot, we can start within 30 seconds. Okay, and that gives you a really instant load profiling capability. So we can switch on and off really quickly as and when that renewable energy source is available. Okay, more than happy to answer any questions later on if I can. If I can, I will certainly get back to you. But no, thank you for this opportunity to present today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Berry. It was fast and very revealing. And now we go back to Ukrainian participants, Mr. Stanislav Kazda, who is the Development Strategy Director of the Regional Gas Company.
Hello to everybody. Let me share you just update about our hydrogen testing program in Ukraine. So regardless of the situation in Ukraine, 2 of our 5 testing polygons still continue with our testing program. And we finished during the last 2 months tests with a long-term influence of hydrogen to household meters, steel pipelines, and polyethylene. And I can say that technically we will be ready for the first real proof of concept or pilot project with hydrogen distribution to end consumers in the second half of the next year. So if you would like to participate on such kind of real testing of hydrogen in Ukrainian distribution network, you are invited for participation. At this moment, the crucial constraint for us is availability of hydrogen generators. So if anybody would like to donate or participate on a hydrogen generation on our testing or pilot projects, you are welcome. In terms of next steps or how to develop hydrogen distribution to existing end users or consumers, there is one topic which is quite obvious, but which is not discussed at all in the Ukraine. By the way, it's not discussed in many European countries. This is the ability of distribution transport network to deliver hydrogen or its blends to end users. I agree and believe that we can create some islands or clusters. This is technically quite simple. And we can create some economically reasonable projects regarding closed hydrogen clusters, but this is not the solution for Ukraine. Ukraine at this moment has to really improve its energy security, safety, and independence. And only way how to do it is to be able to deliver hydrogen and its plants to real end users and consumers. And in this field, we have big lack of information, and technically we don't move forward in this field because Ukraine network, I'm talking about both distribution and transport. It's oversized. It's not suitable for hydrogen distribution and transport from architectural point of view, and it's not able to provide so-called convergency, energy convergency. As Herko mentioned, there is another topic which is very close with hydrogen distribution and generation. This is heat utilization. And that's the reason why we need to create common or join a technical group which will create completely new design of Ukrainian distribution and transport network. First of all, the network needs to be not unidirectional as today, but it needs to be bidirectional, because many of sources of hydrogen, methyl alcohol, ammonia, or other kind of synthetic gases will be utilized on the territory of distribution operators. So we need to be able hand over or pass the free capacity of hydrogen to the higher level of the network, which is not discussed at this moment at all, and it will be a big constraint for the future development. And on the top, we would need to include in this working group also people from district heating or central heating companies, hot water distributors, and also power supply distributors, because at the end, we need to create a universal energy hub, which will utilize not only hydrogen, but different kind of energy sources on the input, and provide and supply to end users with requested kind of energy. Because at the end, we are not talking about gas, water, or electricity. We are talking about delivery of 1 kilowatt. And that's something what I feel is very, very problematic. And again, if anybody from you are willing to participate on this technical development work, you are invited and welcome to join our activity. And we can use for that our technical and academic platform, which concentrate about 20 different technical companies and 80 different universities in Ukraine. Thanks.
That's it. Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Kazda. As always, vigorous and frank. Ms. Irina Antipova, legal counsel from ENGIE. Please open your mic.
Yeah, Inna, that's me.
Yes, Inna.
Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for being here, for all the indeed. I mean, it was a very interesting and quite fruitful presentation and discussions for all the aspects. So I don't think that there is a lot of for me to say. I would just say that ENGIE, our company ENGIE Group, is quite famous with its hydrogen projects, and we have a lot of different projects in Europe and in the whole world, from France to Australia, from Rotterdam to Portugal, and this is one of our main directions to make the economies of Europe, the economies of different countries decarbonized, and this is what we try to develop with our aim to reduce the CO2 emissions. And what I would like to emphasize is that yesterday when we listened to the speech of Joseph Borrell from at the European Commission, what we pointed out is that now it is a historical moment for the whole Europe, and I also believe that it is a historical moment for Ukraine, given the situation where Ukraine stands, given the extremely dangerous and extremely difficult situation with the war against Russia. But we should also think about long-term perspective, long-term future, and it is clear now that Europe is indeed trying to focus on long-term perspective, on not reducing but eliminating the dependence on different types of fuels, not only from Russia, but also Mr. Borrell talked about the fact that now Europe relies mostly on deliveries from USA, but this is not the case. And the sources of energy should be diversified. And from what analytics say, that this is actually the most important point for development of hydrogen, and this is the high point for development of global hydrogen economy. And I think that Ukraine is, notwithstanding the fact that the difficult situation where we stand right now in terms of infrastructure, in terms of economy, the war going on in the Ukrainian territory, but we should also in parallel seek and look for the ways how to develop and the hydrogen economy. And it is clear that now it is only developing, but with these gas prices, with these fuel prices, the hydrogen economy becomes more and more attractive, and the question of logistics, the questions of transportation becomes more and more effective, and there are different studies calculating in which way it's better to transport hydrogen, if either it is ammonia, liquid ammonia, either it is methanol. But this only proves that this sphere of economy, this sphere of the global economy is developing quite rapidly. And I think that we understand that Ukraine could be one of the, given that this sphere has not been, is a little bit of terra incognita so far for the whole world. I think that Ukraine could actually win its place in this global economy as also producer of hydrogen, but also so to say logistics hub maybe, and this is I think quite a prominent future and quite quite a good perspective for us.
Thank you, Ms. Antipova. And the final remarks come from Stefan Kaufmann, who is the hydrogen executive advisor to the ThyssenKrupp Group board. Mr. Kaufmann. We seem to have lost Mr. Stefan Kaufmann, although Markus Kaufmann is here, of course.
I'm still here, but that's not me.
Yeah, I know. We remember your contribution. So now we have exhausted the list of those who were supposed to speak, and unless someone wants to say something very urgent and important, given the fact that many of you have to return back to your usual proceedings, I invite Mr. Valery Bezos to sum up what we have heard and said.
Thank you, Andrei. Thank you, dear colleagues. Thank you so much for your time, for your presentations, for your thoughts. Hopefully we'll have some time for Q&A sessions with our next meetings. I have to underline the very important thing. Of course, now we have the war in Ukraine, and it makes not the easiest matter to discuss the actual investment projects in Ukraine, but nevertheless, we have a very clear vision of our victory, and this motivates us to be prepared for the following rebuilding and renovation works which will be done in Ukraine. And of course, the hydrogen economy will have its very, very sound place with this rebuilding process. And I hope as well that all of your businesses will find their added value in these processes. For us, as I have mentioned, for us, it's very important to be prepared, both with the vision, with the understanding on how to use all of your ideas and all of your practices, and on the regulatory matters. There is such a scope of work to prepare to this renovation and rebuilding process. So again, thank you so much. Please keep in touch, follow our next discussions. We'll have a lot of opportunities to pose new questions and to hopefully find together the answers. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Mr. Bezos, for not only initiating this round of discussions, but also for providing us with what to look forward to in your final remarks. Thank you, everyone. Wish you every success and hope to see you again in this series of discussions initiated by the State Agency on Energy Efficiency and Energy Saving and the Energy Club. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.